This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where every week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we discuss what's going on in our business. Plus, we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week, we'll be talking to Danny Z of Z-Bucks. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce Adult Site Broker Cash, the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. With Adult Site Broker Cash, you'll have the chance to earn as much as 20% of our broker commission, referring sellers and buyers to us at Adult Site Broker. Check our website at adultsitebroker.com for more details. First of all, today, let's cover some of the news going on in our industry. New Mexico artist and activist Roger Montoya, who had been targeted by a stigmatizing campaign by a local conservative blog that revealed he had performed in gay adult movies in his youth, has won a seat in the New Mexico House of Representatives following last Tuesday's election. In early October, right-wing website Pinion Post published an unconfirmed rumor identifying Montoya, who was the Democratic candidate for a northern New Mexico state House seat, as someone who once performed in gay adult films under the names Joe Savage or Eric Martinez. Montoya later confirmed via his Facebook page that he appeared in adult films when he was a struggling college student nearly 4 decades ago. According to the results from the New Mexico races reported by the New York Times, despite the nationally publicized outing of his sex work background, Montoya defeated his Republican opponent 57 to 43%. The chairman of the Republican Party of New Mexico, Steve Pierce, had vocally attempted to pressure Montoya to drop out of the race after the conservative blog reported the rumor. Tuesday's victory makes Montoya New Mexico's first openly gay state house member. Congratulations to him. Penthouse has announced Lacey Lennon has been named the 2020 Pet of the Year. She'll be honored at a private gathering to celebrate her crowning later this month. Lennon appeared as Pet of the Month in the November 2019 issue of the Legacy Adult magazine. Her 2020 Pet of the Year spread is available now to subscribers of Penthouse. Being chosen for Pet of the Year has given me a sense of responsibility of empowering others around me, said Lennon. It is something special that I could keep all to myself, which could possibly turn into narcissism. Instead, sharing what has been given to me by making people feel good, inspired, motivated, and empowered is something I feel is now a duty of mine. I want people to know they are loved. Penthouse COO Moose commented that Lacey is the epitome of what it means to be a Penthouse pet. Her striking beauty, both inside and out, is celebrated among industry colleagues, and she is the perfect choice for our Penthouse Pet of the Year. My heartfelt congratulations go out to Lacey for all of her hard work and dedication. It is well deserved. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer for sale a novelty manufacturer and website with pop culture-themed silicone products. Their products are niche, yet relevant to mainstream audiences and are incredibly shareable, as evident by the hundreds of articles written about the brand on outlets such as Playboy, Vice, BuzzFeed, Mashable, Penthouse, Lad Bible, Cosmo, Nerdist, Refinery29, Pop Sugar, and more. They also have a diehard community of more than 40,000 social media followers, in addition to their email list of over 10,000. All traffic to the website is self-created. No ads have ever been purchased. The traffic is all organic, social, and direct. This company can and has been run by 2 people part-time, or it could be scaled up or merged with a much larger company with very minimal effort. The company has incredible potential for expansion, but it also has a solid 4 years of history of year-over-year growth and a huge community of dedicated fans. All manufacturing equipment is provided with everything needed to continue running the business, including all product molds and related materials. Also included is about $50,000 worth of product stock. You get all this for only $675,000. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Danny Z of Z-Bucks. Danny, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to join you.
Hey, it's a pleasure, Danny. Now, Danny is the owner of affiliate programs Z-Bucks and Dick Bank, plus the site peterfever.com. The company's excellent affiliate tools, top-notch support, and industry-leading payouts have made their affiliate programs and membership sites some of the most well-recognized in the industry, especially in the gay space. Danny is an adult film producer and a 20-year industry veteran. I bet that makes you feel old.
Don't give away my secrets.
In addition to his own studio websites, he also runs pay sites and affiliate programs for a diverse group of studios and porn stars, including Dominic Pacifico, Axel Abyss, Yoshi Kawasaki, and Venix Lux. He's also done consulting work for companies such as Titan Men, GameLink, and Adam and Eve. One thing I wanted to ask, besides some of the topics we discussed before, you have moved around a lot. The first time I knew you lived here in Thailand, in Bangkok, when we both lived there. Gave us a chance to break bread a bit. Then my hometown of San Francisco. Now you're in my dad's hometown of Chicago. Actually, so all those cities have a connection to me. How are all those places different?
They are all very different, actually. I'm originally actually from LA, so that's one of the ones that wasn't on your list. I got into making adult websites in my early 20s, and had some friends making websites in Thailand, and were like, why don't you come on over, and your money will go far here. So that's kind of what happened, and I moved there. I loved it. I lived in Thailand for 10 years. But there came a point where I was like, I wanted to kind of be able to branch out and have more, meet more people in the industry and be on. I worked with everyone in the U.S. and I got so tired of staying up till 6 a.m. every day to be able to talk to people. So I decided to move back to San Francisco, which was a complete opposite in a way, because I went from someplace with a really, it is possible to live pretty cheaply, as you know, in Thailand, and then moving to San Francisco, where it's a tiny apartment is $3,000 a month. Unfortunately, I was able to grow the business when I moved to San Francisco, and that made up for it. And and San Francisco is a very fun city, as you know. But I was looking at wanting to be able to finally own some property or real estate. So Chicago is just a lot more possibilities, and I love all the architecture and the buildings and everything in Chicago. And it had a little bit of the same aesthetic as San Francisco, with being very walkable and great public transportation. So ended up here, and I'm still here, and I think it's a great city.
Just very walkable, except on the south side. Tell me how you got your start in the industry.
Yeah, so I got my start. So I was first working for Out and the Advocate magazines. I actually studied journalism way back when. And I was doing writing and stuff like that. And Out and Advocate also at the time owned Freshman and Men magazines, and Zipped was their other one. So I sort of kept getting assignments on the porn side with, writing erotic stories and, editing some of the stuff. So through that, I made contacts in the adult industry, first with Morgan, who I know you know.
Past guest on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was kind of my first introduction to the gay porn side of things, and I did some
Hmm.
writing for their magazine. Um, and through him, I got introduced actually to a company called Adult Check, which you might remember. Um, so I met the people at Adult Check, and they offered me a lot more money than I was making working for the magazines. So to manage their at the time they had something called Adult Check Gay. So I got hired basically to manage that product. So and that's kind of when I learned about how to build websites. And at that time, they were AVS sites, which were really easy to make. Or you could slap 50 photos and know basic HTML, and start getting some nice checks.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I got my start, and that kind of ties into how I ended up in Thailand. One of our top webmasters lived in Thailand, and so the first time I went, it was actually to do some work with them, and
Cool.
and I liked it so much there, I just ended up making plans to move there. And by that point, fortunately with Adult Check, they also let you make your own sites, so I had started making some income off of my own sites, and at first, when I moved there, I was still working for Adult Check, but eventually, I kind of just branched out on my own, and that's when a little later, I started doing pay sites as well.
Okay. Um, so where'd you go from there? I mean, obviously now you're one of the major owners in the gay space. How did you go from that point to where you're at today?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a long story, but I so in the beginning, nobody was really filming content in Asia, and so I saw kind of a hole there. Like nobody, I thought Asian men were sexy, and there's only
Hmm.
one site I know of at the time that was really catering to Asian men, which was called AsianGuys.com.
Okay.
Um, but the content was pretty amateur. There wasn't really.
You can
Uh,
say it. It was bad.
yeah.
I could hear it in your voice, Danny. I know you too well.
So there's that, and then also that content. There was no like Japanese guys. It was very much just one type of model. So the first site I actually started was called Japan Boys, and the reason was at that time there was not a single site that had uncensored content of Japanese men.
Wow.
And I was going back and forth between Japan and Thailand. I'd go to Japan, and I built a little crew there, and I'd go back and forth and film. So Japan Boys is still one of our sites, and it still does pretty well.
Hmm.
And So yeah, I kind of just moved on from there, and then I kind of built the affiliate program just by making connections with other studios and porn stars that they had content, but they didn't really know how to market it online. And from
Hmm.
my time at Adult Check, I really learned a lot about online marketing. So, at the time it was like TGPs and making galleries and submitting to link lists and SEO and all that kind of stuff. So I really got a lot of knowledge out of that, and since
Hmm.
I knew there was not at that time, there was just a small handful of gay affiliate programs. So when I launched
Right.
ZBucks, um, there were very few gay affiliate programs. The only ones I can remember that were around back then, actually, Harlan from Pride Bucks launched the same year I did, and we became
Hmm.
pretty close because of that. Just trading information, and he was always a kind of a shining light. He always had great advice, and he was a very nice guy, as I'm sure everybody remembers. But
Hmm.
so yeah, so that's kind of just how it grew, and just over the years, I've been fortunate to, have meet other great partners like some of the ones you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and just kind of continue to build from there. It's just kind of like almost like empire building. You start with one side, and then you stack a couple more on top, and it kind of and because I think we have a good reputation, we've never missed a payout. People know that we're a company that they can trust, and they talk about it to people. So we actually get people coming to us, and if it's a good fit, and and they're looking for a partner, we're always happy to talk to them and see what we can work out.
Great. Now, obviously, COVID has been the dirty word throughout the world this year. How has it impacted your business?
So, interestingly, right after it happened, the first 2 months were record months for us. So, like at first, I was like, "Oh my God, I hope COVID never ends." Not really, but but
I get it.
yeah, but for the first 2 months, everybody was stuck at home. At that time, I think the financial impact of it didn't really hit yet. So
Exactly.
so yeah, so the first 2 months were really good as far as like I said, record month for sales, profit, everything. But then the third month, we started seeing things kind of change. First, some of our producers were no longer, they ran out of content. So we didn't have as many updates. We had to figure out ways to do either trades or if it had if it was recycling content or whatever. So around the third and fourth months after the pandemic, it did kind of hit us, and things went. That we never really suffered terribly, but it did go down to what we were before the pandemic, basically. And that brings us, to the last few months, the last 3 or 4 months, which have actually been pretty steady. We've been fortunate in that, we have studios in Asia. So in Asia, they really don't have any problems. Like one of our studios is in Taiwan. We have a new site called G-Dude, and they're based in Taiwan. So
sorry, what's it called?
Oh, it's called G-Dude, JP.com.
Okay.
So that's a studio in Taiwan where there's 0 cases and everything's normal. So there's no lapse of filming, and we were able to hire them to film for some of our other Asian sites. So that kind of helped a lot there, and we were able to go back to producing in Japan as well. So on the Asia side, our sites have actually continued to increase because there's really been no slowdown of content. It's been a little more difficult with our American studios. We work with quite a few American studios. So I don't know if you know, Alternadudes is one of them. Dirty Boy Video. I'm trying to think what other. Dominic Pacifico, although he was filming in Brazil, which also, he hasn't been able to get back over there with everything going on. So, so yeah, really, we're still in a phase where we're having to do trades and stuff, but fortunately, we've just started for our own studios to do production again. Now with the talent testing, we're doing the full panel COVID tests for all the models, and because the most important thing for me is just that all the models are safe, that the crew is safe. I don't want anybody to get sick on our sets. So we're very fortunate that talent testing in LA and Vegas have been great with being able to get everybody tested. So just within the last 3 months, we've been able to start production again, which has helped our sales go back up, of course, because they really tie in together. So I think we're heading in a good direction.
Good. Now, besides COVID, what are other challenges your business is facing today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same challenges we've seen for the last 10 years. But there's a few that are a little bit newer. Of course, there's like the piracy and the all the free content on tube sites and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
but also more recently, and I don't know if I call it a challenge, but it's something that we had to adapt to, is all the fan sites. Um, and
Sure.
yeah, because even with hiring models these days, it's a lot more difficult because the models will say something like, I'm not, we've been refused by, stars that have large followings on their fan sites or whatever, because they say they don't want to hurt their brand by doing studio porn or things like that. Which I think is a little funny, because what I try to tell these guys is, look, if you work for a studio, it actually helps your fan site, because we're promoting you to all our followers. Anytime we work with a porn star, we're putting their Twitter handle out there, and we're retweeting them, and so I think things are gradually changing, where now these guys are seeing that, and we are starting to be able to work with together with the porn stars. And I actually just watched yesterday. I don't know if you know the XBiz Berlin. They're doing a virtual show. They were doing it the last couple of days. But there was a pretty interesting topic about how we can work together with the porn stars. So, for example, if Just for Fans were able to have the porn stars linked to the studio site with an affiliate code, and we could link to their fan site with an affiliate code, and he's working on something of that effect, which I think is a really great idea, and it'll allow studios and porn stars to really work together more. And so I think that's what's going to be happening in the future. I think that's how we're all adapting with this new reality, and going to be able to work, form a stronger collaboration with the stars.
Sure. Now, currently, what is your biggest website, and how are you looking to grow it in the next year?
So our biggest website is Peter Fever, and what we've done with that is we've really tried to focus on having storylines that are unique and different, and that can grab attention. The movie we just released a couple weeks ago is called Zombie Cumsuckers. And
interesting.
Yeah, so it's basically the whole Halloween theme, and it was kind of a parody of some of the zombie movies. So it's pretty comedic, where they'll they eat somebody's cum and then they turn into a zombie, and there's some kind of hokey special. So that was a fun one to make. So I think what we've really done well with Peter Fever is doing these kind of parody films, or even some films that kind of have a little message, like I write some of them, or I have a couple screenwriter friends that write for me. And what we're also trying to do is, kind of break the stereotypes of Asian men being really passive and feminine, and show that, Asian men are sexy and hot. So, and, giving them leading roles in these kinds of movies, which none of the other studios are currently. So I think that's kind of where we're at with Peter Fever. But I think just by continuing to, we basically try to outdo ourselves on every movie we do with Peter Fever. We do have some kind of one-off scenes in between, but for the actual movies, we're always trying to make the next one better than the last one. And we've had some pretty good films, like The Gay Avengers is one that did really well for us. So yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. We just want to just make interesting movies that maybe have some messages, and maybe we can get more eyeballs on it just by doing something that's really unique and different, and staying relevant with the crazy times we live in.
Sure. I remember when Peter started the site, and we were talking about what they were going to do. Sounds like it's come a long way. Um, Now, where do you see the adult industry going in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think it is kind of moving. It goes a little bit back to what I was saying about us working in closer collaboration with the porn stars and finding more ways we can work together, and not look at each other as just competition. So I think that's one thing, but I also think after the COVID age, that kind of like a rock band goes on tour, I think we're going to see more of porn studios going on tour and doing live performances, or meet and greets, or signing autographs, or whatever it is. I think if we could create an actual live experience for our fans, it's people have always asked for, and we have successfully done actually Peter Fever nights at several clubs. We did something for Gay Days a couple years ago, and people really like that. So I think if there's, I think as things technology keeps progressing and stuff, just finding ways to have a closer connection with fans, and whether it be in person or something even virtual. But I kind of think that's the direction that it's going to go in.
Okay. Now, what trends have you seen in adult affiliate marketing in your time in the business? It's certainly changed a lot, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, it definitely has. I mean, like back in the days when I was doing Adult Check, it was funny because the big thing was you'd want to make as many sites as you could as fast as possible, because when you were on top of the Adult Check link lists, you would automatically get 5 to 10 sales just from people clicking on the new sites on the link list. So that was like, back at that time, it was, very different. But then it kind
Just a bit.
yeah. So it's really changed, over the years. I mean, I'm sure you remember when everything was about getting galleries on the Hun. That he was making the TGP galleries, and that was a great money maker back in the day for affiliates. But these days, we don't, galleries, they still exist. They get the occasional sale here or there, but I'd say it's very low on the totem pole. But we still have blogs that do well. Review sites still do really well. I feel like there's still some of these traffic sources from the old school marketing that still work, but a lot of the younger affiliates either don't know about them, or that's just not how they promote. So with most of our new affiliates, they're making sales either from their social media, like Twitter is the biggest one, of course. Also, bloggers do quite well.
I'm sorry, what?
Bloggers. So blogs.
Oh, right.
And tube sites, of course, are the other big one. So it's really kind of, I think, with technology, people want, they really want like the video, like the free video content that's served to them very fast. So that's why Twitter's, so huge now. And tube sites still are very big. So those are basically, those are definitely the two top traffic sources. But you can, if you have a quality blog or a quality review site that people trust, it's still possible to, get a lot of sales and get really good high converting traffic from those. So, so that's kind of what I've seen from the people that are promoting us.
Okay. Now tell us about some of the sites you run and any new sites you've added lately.
Yeah. So The last site we added is the G Dude site, which I told you about. That was a few months ago. Basically, what that is one of our porn stars that lives in Taiwan and has a very big following. We had hired him for Peter Fever as a model. And then come to find out he's got this huge fan base and, over 100 videos that he really only marketed in Chinese to an Asian audience. So that's so that was kind of a perfect fit for us, because what we like to do is take videos that haven't really been seen before and promote them to a Western audience. It's kind of the same thing that we've done in the past with Japan Boys and some of our other sites. So so that site's already off to a really good start, and it's really just Asian muscle men and some kind of fun storylines also and stuff like that. So that's the newest one, and we also another site is another one of our newer sites is Yoshi Kawasaki. He's a Japanese porn star, but he's filmed for a lot of European studios, and he just decided to start his own brand, but of doing very high quality productions, and also very he's kind of a fisting more extreme porn star. His content's very unique. It's kind of artistic at the same time. So that's another one that's because it's very different than anything else out there. It'll be like, him eating ice cream off of somebody's butthole or whatever. But, but it's
novel.
Yeah, exactly. But I think because I think that's the thing. You need content that kind of stands out and cuts through the noise these days, especially with Twitter, where people have such short attention spans. So you want to do something that's unique and different. That's gonna be like, oh, I've never seen that before. I got to see what's gonna.
No, happen. I gotta say, Danny, I have never seen anyone eat ice cream off of somebody's butthole. That I absolutely have to agree with you with.
Exactly. So now you want the link. I'm gonna have to send it to you.
Okay, you go ahead. So what's as he says to the straightest of the straight? Sure, send me the link. What the hell? Now you got me curious. So what is your Hey man, you know me, Dan. I'm from San Francisco. Like anything phases me.
You're from San Francisco and you lived in Pattaya. There's nothing you haven't seen.
Yeah, and Bangkok, man. They don't call it Bangkok for nothing, as you well know. So, what is your favorite movie you produced and why?
So I would say that the best movie that I produced, or my favorite, just because it was the most fun to make, is a movie called The Deuce, which was a Peter Fever movie. And basically what it is it was a parody of the 70s. So we went out and we bought all these crazy 70s outfits. And we found this gay resort in Georgia that just was like so perfect for this movie, because I swear to God, like they had a disco that's straight out of the 70s. The rooms had 70s furniture in them. It was almost like, okay, we have to make this a 70s parody. So we just had a lot of fun with it. We had like, we dressed up as pimps from, 70s pimps, and like, we had a really fun storyline. All the porn stars that were on that shoot were just so much fun to work with. And they, we all just had a great time. It was like being on vacation, and, because we all, had rooms. It's called the Parliament House. I'd love to promote them because they were very kind to us.
The Parliament House?
Yeah, the Parliament House in Georgia. The complex, it's called the Metropolitan Complex. an interesting piece of trivia is that they're actually the largest gay resort in the United States. So they they have,
Okay.
and they just let us have the run of the place, so we were able to film wherever we wanted. They've got,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. In Georgia?
yeah, believe it or not, I was surprised too. And it's clothing optional
Yeah.
there. They have like 3 swimming pools, and so yeah, so that was a lot of fun to shoot. So, and I think the movie came out great too because
And the Proud Boys haven't shown up with their AR-15s yet, huh?
not yet, surprisingly. The funny thing
Thank
I
God.
found is that, for as conservative as it is, because I've done some traveling around the South, and for how conservative and it being the Bible Belt, but then certain things are just like, yeah, let's get naked. That's totally fine. Like you go to Atlanta and the strippers just get fully naked. They'll dance on your lap. They'll do whatever, and it's like, wait,
Mhm.
what's happening?
Yeah, so I hear. Been there, done that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think Atlanta proper does actually have a pretty big gay scene, don't they?
they do. They do. Yeah, they have a very big case.
Mhm.
Our employee Andy just moved to Atlanta a few months ago, so more reason to get over there now.
I guess so. You'll have to excuse the good humor man's coming by with his dippy music right now. Okay, so I see you have a YouTube series called Between Two Cocks. Can you tell me about that, and what are your plans for new episodes?
Yeah, so that was a very fun.
Besides the fact you said you're gonna interview me on there.
Yes, I definitely need to have you on that show. So basically, what it is, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If not, I recommend watching it. But there's a show called Between Two Ferns. You can find it on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, with Zach.
I saw when Obama was on. That was pretty hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah, they're very funny. So I thought it would be fun just to make a porn version of that, where it's basically just me interviewing someone, and I stick 2 giant dildos on a table, and we sit and talk between the 2 dildos instead of the 2.
I love it. I love it.
So I started it like right before the pandemic, and my first guest was one of my business partners who runs Alternatudes. He also does some of the shooting for Peter Fever. So we just sat there, drank some margaritas, and took the piss out of each other for like 15 minutes. But it was a lot of fun. So I plan to do more episodes, but then with the pandemic and everything, it's hard to sit down in person with anybody. So I do hope that once things are better, I can get you on the show. I'd love to get some more some more of the industry people that we all know and love on there.
Yeah, bring those dildos to a show for sure. You should probably figure out how to do it virtually.
That's a good idea. I was thinking about doing that way. I've never done a virtual. I don't know how to record it. I'd have to research how to do that. But yeah, that would definitely be a way to do it in the meantime. But
Danny, you're a producer, for Christ's sake. I don't think it's too much of a reach to think you can figure it out.
Oh, I'm sure I could. It's just one of those things. So many things on the table. But I do definitely love the idea of just packing a couple dildos when we can go back to the shows, and everybody's already a little drunk, and because I want people to be really kind of have fun with it, and let their hair down. I don't want to do a real serious kind of interview because they're just meant to be more fun. But with some little tidbits of truth and information in there.
So what do you got planned for that coming up?
Well, I was told that Tim Valenti would do it. So hopefully I'll get
who?
Tim Valenti, who I'm not sure if you've.
Tim.
Yeah.
Tim Valenti, who needs to return my call about doing this podcast. But anyway, yeah, I know Tim.
Maybe he'll listen to this one and it'll convince him.
He better.
Exactly.
Who else?
I had some porn stars in mind. I'm trying to think if I can remember who they were. I know I had talked to Wesley Woods about it, but now that he's not in the industry anymore, and he's focusing on his comedy career. Although the fact that he's a porn star that went to comedy, maybe this would be a good thing for him to do.
I think he'd be perfect, especially if he's funny enough to be a comedian.
Oh yeah, he's a riot, and that's kind of what I want to do is get funny people, because I really want to, make it something that's kind of funny, and because I think there's just there is so much serious and depressing and everything in the world right now. So
220,000 dead is kind of just
exactly 220,000,
isn't it? Well, when I'm on, I'll be happy to put my comedy hat on if that'll make you happy.
Oh yeah, that'll make me very happy.
I know you are, Danny. And that's one of the things I love about you, man. Well, hey, I'd really like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I really hope we'll get a chance to do this again very, very soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to get you in between those two cocks.
My broker tip today is part 4 of how to buy a website. Last week we discussed making an offer and deciding the best price for the site you're buying. Once you've made your offer, the work begins. If you're working with a broker like, say, Adult Site Broker, we handle the negotiation for you. Let's say the seller doesn't accept your offer. They may make a counteroffer. If you decide that you're willing to pay more, you can either accept their counteroffer or counter back to them. A good rule of thumb is to always leave room to negotiate. So don't make an offer that is the absolute most you're willing to pay. If you do that, then you have nowhere to go if the owner counters your offer. Once the owner and you have come to a deal, then it's time to do some due diligence beyond what it is you've already done. During the initial process of looking at the site, you should have asked some questions, like in the case of a pay site, how many joins and rebills there are per day, and any other pertinent questions. During due diligence, you need to make sure everything is where you need it to be technically to integrate it with what you're already doing. You may even get your developer involved if you're not tech savvy. You or your developer should ask these pertinent questions. Once these are answered to your satisfaction, you should either have the seller or yourself draw up a sales agreement. I always tell my clients to do the agreement. Why? Because that way you can dictate the terms. So whether you're the buyer or the seller, you can make the rules. However, just be ready to have the seller's attorney change some of those rules. Nothing is final until everything is signed off on. Another thing we do for our clients is to do a letter of intent prior to the sales agreement being done. This gives your attorney a roadmap for the agreement. The letter of intent, and more so the agreement, will have all of the terms involved, including who pays for everything. Who pays for escrow, for instance. This can be paid by the buyer, the seller, or split between both parties. We'll talk more about this subject next week. And next week we'll be talking to Patrick from Feet Finder. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Danny Z. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.